Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Renes Lophanor, and I'm so happy he said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well. Thank you very much, Caroline, for having me on your show today.
Thank you, and I see it already. uh, how well you are being. Or yes, I would love to introduce you to the audience. First, of course, you are an author, polyglot. I don't know how you pronounce this in English, and
You
secondary
did it
school.
perfectly.
Okay, polyglot. It's like
Mhm.
it's like polyglot. It's universal.
Yeah.
Fluent in Haitian Creole,
Mhm.
French, English, and Spanish. You explore educational challenges and needed reforms in your debut book. You hold a degree from Sorbonne Nouvelle University and write both fiction and non-fiction.
Mhm.
Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Renes
Thank
Lophanor.
you.
I'm so
Thank you very
excited,
much.
so happy. Okay, my first question to you. What inspired you to share your experiences as a teacher in your debut book?
What inspired me is that there are two main reasons that pushed me to write that book. The first one was to share with fellow teachers and about my experience, how I have done things in the classroom that has been helpful to me to help me cope with various things such as um, uh, behavioral issues, how to build uh, a relationship with the students, which in turn encourage them to want to work, to want to learn in the classroom. And also the other reason is to point out at all the things that to me are detrimental to the education system and stifling the learning and the development of creativity in our children.
Wow, that's amazing. So
These were
first
the two main reasons.
you were inspired, and then you were inspired to inspire others. These were your students
Mm.
to be willing to learn, to be inspired to learn as well, and then you shared it with your teacher colleagues,
Yeah.
and to inspire them to make things differently. I love that so much because we are here to inspire. This is the name of the podcast, of course, as well. And okay, my next question is, in your opinion, what are the most urgent changes needed in the current education system?
Oh, the most ones. I will start with the standardized testing. The fact that all children, all students are being assessed exactly the same way, regardless the individuality, is to me unfair. Unfair for various reasons. Some children learn at a slower speed, others at a faster speed. Others are more interested into one particular subject, whereas another lot of students would be more focused towards a different subject. So all these to me should be taken into account in order to to enable each um, student or each group of students to be able to express themselves the best way that they can, and that to me would be a fairer way of assessing them. And talking about assessment, there are far too many, um, at least in the countries where I have made my research to write that book. So I will name England because that's where I'm teaching, England, but also in France and the United States. These to me are the what the most the biggest culprit, I would say, and the best example I have found um, is the education system in Denmark and Finland, in particular. Over there, students are not tested until I think age 7. There's absolutely no testing. They are learning by playing, by doing creative activities, and they are mixed as well with different age group. As we know, children tend to learn faster with their peers, with people who are the same age as them, rather than from adults. And that's something that they do a lot in the Finnish schools. And I would love to see this developed more, tried in schools like in England, for example. Um, at least to see. It might not work. It might not work because it worked over there. Doesn't mean necessarily it's gonna work here. But since we know it works somewhere else, let's try what works, and we'll see. We may have just to tweak it to make it fit our own system, but at least that's something I think we should consider. So that's one of the main thing. The other one is the subjects that are offered, that are being taught in schools. I believe that there should be more flexibility in the type of subjects that students um, could take as an options after let's say year 9. So year 9, for anyone who's watching this, year 9 are the students who are roughly 13-14 years old in England. From that age they choose which subjects they want to carry on. So I think there should be um, more flexibility, because they tend to not they tend to they are being forced to do some what they call core subjects, like science. For the language, which is English in England, this one, yes, perfectly fine. That's the language. You need the language to communicate, regardless whatever you decide to do, to pursue later. But anything else like science, math, and by math I don't mean the basic math that we use every day. I mean like a more advanced math, which, let's be honest, as soon as you leave school, how often do you get to calculate the circumference of a circle, the angle of a uh, of a wall or something? So yeah, this might sound trivial as example, but it is a fact. It's one clear evidence of the imbalance between what is taught in school and what the student face in real life. So I would love to see a more balanced um, curriculum between school and real life. And finally, I would love finance to be taught in school, and that from as early as possible, because as soon as you leave school you are faced with bills, with credit cards, with interest rates, rents you have to pay, but you have not been taught about any of this in school. You simply have to learn them on the field, and and that's a big lack in the system. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Now I understand. Okay, the first thing you said was to yeah, the number of exams or
Yeah.
so.
Mm.
you said this, and it is too often. Yes, you said this, and I remember and I could talk for hours about the education system. So we don't do it in Germany. You have 2 exams per semester. You call it semester, I don't know, but there are different countries as well, and they are competing countries, I mean, within Germany, and they are competing which one is the best, and I don't like it. And I remember the French system you talked about it. It's called control continu. That means they
Yeah,
are always exam,
always.
constant
Yeah,
exam. And
yeah.
I was not used to it when I studied in France, and I
Mm.
because and I can share this with you. I had one bad mark. I remember in my studies, it was you have to reach, for
Yeah.
example, 10
10,
out
that's it,
of
out of 20.
and I was below 10, and my whole world crashed
Shattered,
because I
yeah.
thought
Mhm.
it's over. I have to go
Yeah,
home. I cannot continue. I fail. But it was not. And then I was crying before
yeah.
this whiteboard. I don't know. And then they told me, "Oh, it's just 1 mark. You can you can improve next
You
week."
can,
Okay, I
yeah.
was confused. So then you talked about comparing. I think the subject is about comparing the children, the students with each other. So the competition part, it is better
Mm.
to compare yourself with your version, with your yesterday version, right?
Yes.
With
Yeah.
yourself, always with
Mhm.
yourself. And then you talked about the different subjects. I love that so much because you are now you are forced to do something you have no talent. And then
Yeah.
mathematics, I don't know. And one sentence I want to add, I came across this. It says knowledge that is not used is not knowing, is not knowledge, because you
Mhm.
don't use it. So you don't have to store or save it into your memory because you can use
Yeah.
it for something better, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
this what you said, and I totally agree. And the Scandinavian countries are a
Mm.
very good leading example for that.
Yeah.
Hear it in the news, and I didn't know that they mix students of different ages
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that
Up to
learn.
up in primary school, they have children from, like, you would have children age 3, 4 with those who are 8 years old, and they are working together on a project, on a task, and it just feel like a family, a family, brothers and sisters working together, and while the teacher is around supervising. Even the layout of the classroom is different. It does not look like the traditional classroom that we used to, and that also creates a more friendly atmosphere, um, which children will find more enjoyable to work in.
Yes,
Mm.
I love that so much. It's about teamwork as well. And I remember, and I can share this it's not a story, but just what I witnessed was in Germany again.
Mhm.
Someone someone, a friend's daughter, for example, she was even punished for helping another kid in school with their, not homework, but when they do a group assignment, or I don't know
Yeah,
what it was. And she changed school after that because it was, she could not
yeah,
go on like this. And it is the competition effect. And when I think about where do they land afterwards, it's a company, right? And we learn how to teamwork in a company, and in school
yeah,
they got punished for that. I don't understand, so I support
yeah,
your, your cause 100%. And
absolutely.
everyone who wants to connect with you, please reach out to Renes. He's amazing, and he's changing the school system, beginning with the UK, right? Why?
That's the intention. That's the goal. Need to start
Yes,
somewhere, and I'm starting with the UK because that's where I am currently.
I
Yeah.
like this. Okay, my next question for you. How has your multilingual background influenced your perspective on education and your approach to teaching?
Oh, now that that is something that I have found very, very useful, in the sense that, well, first of all, let me tell your audience that I speak, my mother tongue is Haitian Creole. So that's the language spoken in Haiti. Second language is French. Third language is the one I'm using to speak to you right now, so English. My fourth language, which I learned from year nine, that I mentioned earlier, is German. Um, and my fifth language is Slovak. And my final one is Spanish. Um, in my teaching, I mean in my class, my all my classes basically, I have children who are from various backgrounds, and they speak different languages as well as the primary language. I have students from Poland, from Afghanistan, from Libya, um, generally from Eastern Europe, Africa, and Asia, and therefore a variety of languages, which I absolutely love as a linguist myself. And the first one of the first thing I do is to make them feel proud of the mother tongue, because I don't know if you have noticed, but children and sometimes even adults too, children or teenagers, they tend to be ashamed of the mother tongue, especially when they are around their peers. And I have noticed that, and I know that for a fact because I was one of them. I was ashamed of speaking Creole in front of my friends when I was in secondary school, and it's only as I grow up and you change, you grow, you learn, and you realize what advantage you actually have with that extra language. And so that's something I have been instilling in my students to make them feel proud of the language, and I learn from them as well, and to make one of the technique that I use to make them feel all right with the language is to ask them in a class, um, how do you say so and so in your language? First of all, they would be shy, looking around. Oh no, I don't know. I don't know what to say. And if there's another student who speaks the same language and who feel bolder, and that student will say it, and then in turn, I will try to repeat it. Obviously, uh, depending on the language like Arabic, Punjabi, Urdu, etc. My pronunciation is not going to be totally accurate in their ears as expert that they are, and that makes them laugh when I say it, but not with the perfect intonation or accent, and that that starts breaking the barrier um, of the language. And I try and I make them aware that yes, languages are different, they sound different, and I do ask them, why don't you want to say that phrase in your language? And to start with, they will say, oh, I don't know, but I know the answer, but I want to hear it from them. And until someone say, well, it's because it sounds strange. And I to which I say, yes, by strange you mean it sounds different. And that's normal. It's a different language. It will sound strange or different to your peers the same way English sounds strange to someone from your country who does not speak English. And that's normal. That's normal. And then gradually everyone would translate that sentence that I originally said in their own language, and with me clapping and encouraging them, and trying to repeat that in all the languages that are available in the class. And since then, everyone is comfortable with the language. And in my lesson, to get back to the question you asked me, when I'm teaching grammar, for example, or vocabulary list, but let's say grammar, for example, I would use their original language to make them understand better. For example, you, the word you in English, there's only one word, whether you're speaking to one person or to more than one. I have a German student as well. So to make her understand clearly, I'll say tu, which means you, that's du. That's your du in German. And vous, which also means you, that's your ear in German. Ah, okay. And they understand. And for the student who speaks Farsi from Afghanistan, I say tu, tu, that is tu in Farsi. And the vous, that's shama. Ah, okay. And so on. And yeah, so and that makes them realize that speaking another language is an advantage that they have over anyone who speaks only just one. And yeah, so that's how I use my language knowledge in in a classroom. Hmm.
It's amazing. I like this exercise. We all know this when there are, let's say, yeah, children from a different country, and then you expose them, and
Mm.
they have to tell their story somehow. Where are you
Yeah,
from? Everyone is watching or something.
yeah,
And then when you make them say it in their language, then the other ones are not understanding first, and
yeah,
they have.
and they are laughing
Mhm.
because it sounds strange to use their word, but it sounds different to use my word, and that's normal. And I make them. I made it clear it's normal. It does sound funny. Some words sounds funny to our ears because we're just not used to them. But the more you hear them, you don't laugh anymore. I'm sure the first time I heard Meerschweinchen, I laughed, but then not anymore. So,
Yes, Meerschweinchen or Eichhörnchen. We all know these words when
yeah.
people cannot pronounce. It's difficult,
Mm,
and then we choose those words, and then we get to laugh.
yeah.
But I did not understand first because I was raised at an early age. I told you, like bilingual to not really bilingual, but in French language. So I
Hmm.
was used to to always think in a different language.
Yeah.
So yes, and yeah, and it's a different approach because what you said, and I have to point this out real quick before we close, but I
Hmm.
have another last question, of course. I want to add the what two words. It's the I would say readjustment and
Hmm.
rebalance, because what you point out that people say, oh, it sounds strange, but it's not strange. Then you say it sounds different or differently, and
Yeah.
this is so beautiful. I would say rebalance, and this is also removing barriers like cultural or
Yeah.
whatever. So I have to point this out because you did not say it, you just do it. You don't tell the world, you show
Yeah.
them first, and this is what I understand. It's about bringing people cultures closer
Mm,
together. This is
yeah.
your work, I understand, and this is also what the podcast is about, connecting people all over the world, of course. So I
Yeah.
don't care. Okay, one more sentence. So I don't care anymore because I don't like my accent. I told you that before, and I
You
don't
said.
speak English perfectly or whatever because I neglected it. It is my second foreign language. This is my excuse. But
Mm,
since December last year, I don't care anymore because
that's
it's
good.
the message that counts. And thank you so much for reminding me. My
Um,
last question to you is about yeah, you told us already about your goals and intentions, and maybe you can tell us about your next projects and where people can find you when they reach out after listening to this podcast
yeah.
episode.
Good. So my next project, I am writing the next book, which will follow, which will be in the same same on the same theme of education, but this time um, it will be a book for the students themselves. Ah, can I say more? Let's say just that. It's
Okay.
a Yeah, it's a student. It's a book that is um, targeted to the students themselves rather than to teachers or educators, unlike this one. Um, and to find me, it's quite easy. Just type my name, Renes Lophanor, on Google. You'll find my website, a link to my Instagram and Facebook as well. And yes. So, and as for the book, I still love teaching despite having all the reasons in the world to quit. It's available on Amazon, Ingram's Park, and some of the physical libraries, depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah, I created an Amazon list for all the books of my beautiful podcast guests. So I will put it on the list, of course, and I
Thank you.
just spread the word and the link. And when can we expect the publication of your newest work?
Oh, I am halfway in the manuscript. So as when, honestly, I don't know. I know this book that I've just published took me 12, 17 months. But I was on it every day, every single day. But for the next one, I still have now to work on the marketing for this one, so that could take a bit longer. And since I'm writing other books in parallel, fiction this time, so we'll see. I'm hoping not more than a year and a half, including editing and everything. Yeah.
Yes, that's perfect. And promoting as well. You mentioned it. So the podcast we just recorded is one part of the marketing stuff. And
Mm,
people, we wait for the second book or the next book and we read the first book, right? We start at the beginning.
absolutely.
Please reach out and check the Amazon list or whatever, the homepage, and buy
Mm,
the book. I like this. It will transform the world and the perspective on teaching.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and now it's time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
To everyone, I would say, be kind to teachers. You've all been to school. You've had teachers you liked, teachers you despised, but overall, they all taught you what you know today, or at least the foundation of your knowledge. And you have your own children in school. If you knew that school was totally useless, I don't believe you would send your school to the institution. So somehow you acknowledge that it has some use. So help us, teachers and educators, to help you and your children by showing more understanding towards the profession, which the general public tend to despise for various reasons. I don't want to get into it. But if we work together, teachers and parents alike, trust me, your children will perform much better and they will enjoy being in school. And if they do, they will perform better and do the best that they can achieve and achieve the best that they can achieve. Thank
Wow,
you.
this is the best message. Thank you so much. Very encouraging to keep going, to move on. And thank you so much for our interview.
My pleasure, Caroline. Thank you to you. Goodbye.
Goodbye and see you in the next episode, of
The
course.